Good.
Bill, we are requesting for waiver of noise ordinance on January 7th, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. This is for resolution last year.
No problem.
October 30th, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Quick Book Board.
Ready?
Public hearings is
Well,
12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Public hearings, it is a public hearing to declare the structures at 2715 Drive West, 2715 Charlotte Street South, and 2901 Indian Street. Public businesses and order presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. And recording, give an update on the school started, the Shara hearing, this is, she's with the Community Maysville Action Group, and wants to know if the city can donate some land in the Maysville community, Burlington Flowers, regarding annexation, achieving racial balance, Rich Hill, pre-conclusive, remarks regarding petition and, recommendations for the city center project.
Mr.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, the Sheriff Carey donating land, what's driving that? What are you looking to do?
Go ahead.
I was at a community meeting maybe a week, 2 ago. And, the, group that represents the Williamson High School Alumni Association wants to be able to use the property where the track is on their campus. That property is owned by Harmon Park, which is in the park system, which the city controls, which makes it very difficult to transfer property to an entity. But I guess that it might be able to be done or can be done. The request, I would think, would be that they send a letter to the city requesting us to help them as opposed to petitioning us to give them something. I talked to briefly Ricardo last week, told him, or asked him what I thought about, several different processes where we can actually retain the land through a ground lease and allow maybe them to use the parkland because it would never be sold. And other issues like that that have been looked into, which allow them to possibly move forward with their campus or stay on school property, but it has to be, they have to make the request to the administration in order for us to move forward or request to council member. I also talked to their council member, Sherry Wicks, Dillahay McDade, on the same issue. I don't think they're coming down here to give everybody a black eye or to be overly aggressive. I think they just want the ability to be able to put a campus on the property where the school is currently. Did I say that right? Put a stadium on the property where the school is right now. So I think that's what the request is. And I think, to be honest, I don't know how much everybody at the table knows about how the transference of park property is handled in municipalities, but it can be very difficult, and it's a process that you have to go through. But there are also other things that we can do as far as ground leases and things like that, which allow us to partner with other governmental entities, which have been done in the past. And I'm gonna guess, and I'm not sure, because I haven't been able to, I haven't been able to dig deep into it to see what happened when the original agreement for this was done, because when you look at the maps and the deeds, over 75% of the track is already on our property anyway, and only a little bit of that section to the end of it is also, so that's just a request right now.
Resolution is held over, 208955, approved purchase of vehicle fuel 0927, approve purchase order G for 4 Winchester rifles. 0828, approve purchase order city government for annual renewal of multi-factor authentication software for MIT. 0829, approve purchase order of North American Fire Equipment for limbs of fire hose. 25930, accept permit drainage easement from Capital Cemetery to provide future construction and maintenance of access to Fremont Creek Hydrological Restoration Project site. Consent resolutions being introduced. 01932, consent resolution 01823 to deallocate funds allocated to project.
Y'all want me to explain what that is? Some time ago, we approved a partnership agreement between Mars and the city to basically front them funding so that they could finish the project, working in conjunction with the city. But the board decided that they did not want to do that. It does not stop our project, it just means that Mars won't be doing the entire project with the city. If they choose in the future to come back and lay pipes and that sort of thing, they will be doing that on their own, and they would have to make whatever improvements would be necessary if they dig into the road, into the sidewalks and that sort of thing, and they realize that. But this in no way impacts the project that we are doing.
Madam Clerk.
03933, reappointment of Carlisle to Human Relations Commission. 31934, authorized grant application to the University of Baltimore for combating overdose community level intervention initiative grant. $50,000 to local match. 935, 936, 937 are declared instructions for the nuisance in order to demolish. 58, 938, and 939 are declaring weeds noxious and authorizing removal of weeds through 1635 and 1633. 6940, who award special bonus to administrative services employee of the month. 6941, 942, 943, 944, 945, 960 are determining appropriations to Chestate Barney K through 8 school, Hope Boxing Academy, Revelation Missionary Baptist Church, United Methodist Inner City Mission, Jubilee Youth Service Leadership Academy, and Lad People's Sports and Entertainment Complex serve for the purpose of authorizing payments. CIP resolutions being introduced. 23946, accept right-of-way DEP for Halls Mill Road and Demetropolis Road intersection improvement project. Resolutions being introduced. 07947, approve the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds by Capital Trust Fund, not to exceed 438,231,000. To 231,000.
Could we get some more information on this?
Scott, you selling paper?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Be careful what you got wrapped up in.
Which one are we talking about?
This is
947.
This is a private funding, it's a TEFRA bond, I believe Councilman Jones is supporting it. It's a privately funded project in the councilman's district. Under the Internal Revenue Code, the city council has to adopt a resolution saying that it does not, basically it approves the project, but all the council is saying is that it does not object to the project, and the resolution says that this is not in any way a financial obligation of the city of Mobile. It's just what's called a TEFRA hearing. The hearing will be conducted by the bond counsel for the private investor. Locally, the bond counsel is being represented by Matt McDonald, who will take care of the hearing and be here before. The council actually approved this issuance once before, but in March of this year, but the funding fell through. So the bond counsel has come back and asked the city council to approve another TEFRA resolution.
And my understanding on this is not new multifamily housing. This is refinancing a current debt that exists. So you're just terminating.
And this is something they came to us to do.
08029, 08-949, approved purchase order for replacement shelter at Mobile Museum of Art, $231,693. 08-950, approved purchase order to Centec Systems for upgrade to 13 fueling stations, $130,306. 08-951, approved purchase order to CW Government for computer network monitoring equipment and software license, $130,000. 08-952.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
and this brought up a question, seen discussed when we were at Tampa with old computer equipment and stuff. What do we do with the city computers when we replace them? What do we do with the old computers? And the reason I'm asking, is there a way that we could use those to push down to some nonprofits or to some schools or something to give them some capability they may not have? Just something that may be worth looking into. That sounds like they were doing and were successful doing that.
08-952, approved purchase order to truck equipment sales Inc. for lift truck for traffic engineering department, $16,510. 09-953, reallocate funds from capital project NPL, Dawson Street Branch Fund NPL, Dawson Street, $74,662.30.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Why is 950, I don't understand what's going on with 953. How this money's moving from one account to the other account, and is it the same project, or is the project changed?
So it is, and Nick, is Nick back there? Yeah. It's just moving it into the grant project.
So as our accounting systems have gotten better and we've improved things, we've gotten where we do these grant funded projects that have NPO money so that it's all in a grant project, not a capital project. In some instances in the past, there's been pots of monies in both. It's been hard to keep track of the accounting of it. So this is just cleaning up the accounting to make it, because it's a project that's got grant money in it, putting it all in one pot for its cleaner.
Okay.
That makes sense.
21-954, authorized contract to Summerco partnership with Verizon Wireless, wireless cell phone services and equipment, not to exceed $100,000 per year. 21-955, authorized contract with RGLG Inc. doing business service master services for janitorial services at various city mobile facilities, $262,232 per year. 60-956, authorized settlement within the release of funds. Call for public hearings, 41-957, call for public hearings, rezone property located on the south side of Dawson Street, 520 feet, east of Sage Avenue, extending to the east side of Sage Avenue, extending to the west terminus of Exeter Drive and Sherwood Drive south, from LB2 and R3 to R3, scheduled November 22nd. 41-958, call for public hearing, zone property located at 2819 Government Boulevard, R1 and 222, scheduled November 22nd. 41-959, call for public hearing, zone property located at 1263 Baker Street, R2 and I2, 2I2, scheduled November 22nd.
Anything from the council?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Davis?
Thank you. I received a call from a local developer last evening, and he's working on two projects. One is a large construction project for a nonprofit located in the city, and another is a commercial project he's working on. And both those projects are being held up because they can't get a ruling from the tree commission with respect to trees that are located in the facility. I remember about a month or 6 weeks ago, we talked about this here, and then I was out for a couple of weeks, and I kind of lost track of where we are on the problems, getting the tree commission to meet and act, and I was wanting to see if there was any update on that.
We're meeting right after this on exactly those issues. So I will be able to update you probably. I'll come back down and tell you where we are.
And the next scheduled tree commission meeting is November 1st. And it's publicly notified and the commission is aware.
And we've been filled all?
That was my question. Has everybody got an appointment on the tree commission? That was
It looks-
One of the issues was the failure to be able to get a quorum.
Yes.
Is it possible that the staff can give the council people that's not showing up? Because I don't even know, I mean, I appointed someone, but, you know, I don't know if they actually showing up or not. You know, if not, we need to, you know, try to see something.
Yeah, this recent event, and that's what I need to find out, might have to do more with public notice of the meeting than it had to do with the quorum. So let me find out where the failure happened, and then I'll report back to you.
Yeah, I'm not trying to point the finger at anyone, I think this is a shared responsibility. And so I'm willing to do whatever I need to do, and I'm sure we're all willing to do whatever we need to do in order to get them meeting regularly so we can do these things.
We're in agreement.
Mr. President, on that issue, I wanted to go and view the agenda for the tree commission to see the items that were up there, but it's not posted to the website for some reason. So if there's anything that can be done to help that, I would greatly appreciate it so I can follow the action.
Go ahead.
So to specifically address that question, the website used to be held by Bill Mobile when Urban Forestry was in Bill Mobile department. When it moved over to Public Services, that website was locked down, so there's permission issues, and we're working on the website update, and that will all move over to the Public Services Urban Forestry page where all those things will be posted in the future. So for the minutes, once the post meeting, or actually the agenda, is posted on the board downstairs, and that's meeting the requirement of the public notification requirement. So eventually, once the website's up, it's going to be much more streamlined, but right now we're meeting the minimum requirement of pre-posting it, and then once the meeting minutes are done, that we're pushing them over to get them posted on the Bill Mobile site.
So for my ability to come down and stand at the board and read what's published, it's not really efficient. If there's the possibility for staff or someone to send us emails with it so that we can post it in our own way, it'd be nice. I'd like to see it and read it and follow what's going on. And it's just, I know you're meeting the minimum standard, but it's maybe not necessarily the most efficient. So in the event that there's some issue with, say, our appointments or some issue that's in front of the board, it'd be nice if we knew what was going on with it. So can y'all email that to us every meeting? I think y'all got a meeting coming up on the 1st. I haven't seen that agenda, and I know my appointment hasn't seen that agenda either.
So your appointment, so we do send them all out to all the tree committee members. So if they haven't seen that, I can follow up.
It may just be helpful if you could just include me on that email. I think that's, okay. And Mr. President, one other issue unrelated is I watched the Administrative Services Committee meeting last week, which I thought Mr. Carroll, Mr. Jones, everybody involved, they all held a good meeting, and it was fairly productive. But there were a couple of things that I heard, and I think this publication's going out tomorrow or the next day. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Should have gone out already, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it comes out tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
The
okay.
publication will be printed Friday. Our submission to the paper happens tomorrow.
Okay. So, I'm sorry I wasn't here to give my input during the meeting, but there were some things that were raised that I think are worth considering before the publication goes out. But in order to consider them, I guess I'm confused. Do we vote on what publication goes out? Is that required of us to vote on what we publicize as a city council?
If I may, yeah, the issue is this, it all deals around timing for the Corps of Engineer bill. If we publish an amendment and we change one word of that amendment, then we've got to go through an entire process of a public hearing again, which is delayed then 30 days. So what we were trying to get to, and that's why we continue to delay the process, was to ensure that we had a consensus on the amendment that we were putting forward, that we had enough confidence that we get 5 votes to move the process forward. And that's why we had all the meetings, that's why we had all the discussions. And after last week's meeting, I believe that that is the case. And that's the amendment that, based on the discussions and the interaction that we had with all stakeholders, it wasn't just the city council that was involved in that, that we have a plan that will move everybody forward. If that now changes, we have problems. And, you need to discuss what you want changed. But, I mean, we're coming in the 12th hour to try and do this. We've got to get this thing in tomorrow, so we don't have time. Unless we continue to delay the process with the Corps of Engineer bill, and, I mean, anything at this point is at least another week delay, possibly longer, if we push this off again. Because I think if there's gonna be changes that are different than that, that's another committee meeting to have this discussion, this debate. So that's my perspective on it.
Well, I think there was fair points raised in the, now, I haven't seen the publication, I haven't seen it, I don't think it's been produced to anybody here. You know, what's been put out. So
That was
I
what was
can't-
discussed last week.
Well, it was discussed, but, you know, one word we're talking about, and I haven't had the opportunity to read it, so, but there were good, fair points raised in that committee meeting that I don't know if they were accounted for in the publication or not. And those points being that the T3 section over there, going back to the T codes, the T3 section over there is a restricted component and modified from the original T codes in some way, where it's not gonna allow multifamily at
Correct.
T3. So we're basically gonna take the residential component over there on Lawrence Street and cross the street and now create that same, you know, issue potentially for what goes next to that residential, now on the Civic Center property.
And that was discussed at
So
length.
we're fighting it right now across the street of having to restrict, and now we're gonna cross the street and put that residential component there, and then have to fight it again with what goes next to it. And so that's one of the issues. The other issue,
Let's take that one.
I've got the floor.
Let's take them
I've
one
got
at a
the-
time.
Mr. President.
Hold on, Mr. Johnson.
The second issue is that was raised by the administration, which is a fair point, right? That we've come to this point, sort of somewhat misleading folks to think that they can do whatever they want on this site, knowing full well that it can't happen. And now we're revising this again and again, and we're going to put forward that there can be a 16-story building where I don't think anybody really has the wherewithal or desire to allow that to happen on that spot. So, you know, I think those are fair points, those are easy changes, those are ones that get us the highest and best use and gives us the best opportunity to provide a partner. And I'm saying that when the discussion comes up in the public hearing, because it will come up in the public hearing, instead of allowing it to come up then, and then we have to republish, I'm saying to revise the publication, or let me look at the publication and see what revisions are required. So,
You done, Ms. Ramos?
and one other thing,
Hold on, Ms. Carroll. Mr. Ramos.
from the council attorney, I think he's gonna find out whether or not we need to vote on what we publicize. I mean, I don't have an answer to that. You know, what is published? I mean, can I just go publish whatever I want, you know, on behalf of the entire city council, just by myself? Because if that's the case, then I'm prepared to do that. But that's it, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Carroll.
Scott,
And I would
you
like
want
to
me to
hear from.
respond to that? You got it?
Yeah.
Clerk, too.
Look, with regards to the multifamily issue is non-negotiable. And that we had that discussion, and we had a consensus moving forward that multifamily was not gonna be put into T3 uses. If you wanna bring that forward, then bring your amendment forward and put it in there, and we'll vote on that completely separate than the other one. I am not gonna go against what the stakeholders outside of the city council wants to do with that property. And it was their decision, and we have a right to respect the voices that we represent. They didn't want multifamily. That was a concession, and we have a majority of this city council, at least 5 that I've thought, moving forward. We can have that discussion right here if we want to, before we send out this amendment. but it is zoned now for single-family and two-family homes, which is consistent with what is across the street on Lawrence Street. With regards to the layered building, we had this long discussion, and I'm sure you heard it if you listened to the tape. We wanted, and the administration wanted, full flexibility with this plan. We have not done anything that has been egregious with any developer saying that we have expectations or anything else. And to Joel's point last week, I haven't heard anybody coming knocking the doors down to the city wanting to build over here. We have to go court other people. But whether it's 8 stories or 16 in the zoning, that discussion will take place when we have a developer that's interested in that building. This just lays out the overall construct and architecture that allows them the flexibility that they need to do what they want to do. If we want to layer it, we can layer it. But at the end of the day, we don't know what somebody wants to do. We have no clue, as no developer has talked to anybody that I'm aware of with the city council on what they want to do. So what we're trying to do is to give the max flexible uses possible that is consistent with what could be developed in the city council area.
Mr. Carroll?
Joel, I agree with what you said. And I represent citizens of District 2. I represent the citizens that live on Orange Street, Cedar Street, Warren Street, Osage Street, Monroe Street, all the streets that abut this facility. I'm the one that heard their concerns, their complaints, their issues, their wants, their desires to the structure of what they like to see over there, major stakeholders. However, I understand that the Civic Center is a major part of not just the city of Mobile, but the whole city of Mobile. But the last time I checked, I'm the District 2 representative.
Mr. President.
I'm done.
So this, publication that is gonna go out,
I'll get you a copy today.
we need to figure out whether or not we want to take a vote on what's published and what's not.
We don't vote on it.
We don't vote on what we
You don't
send
vote on-
out.
You don't vote on what's published, you vote to call for a public hearing to amend, well, that's what we did, we voted on what was, the administration put forward for a call for public hearing, we voted to amend that. So, we don't vote on what's actually published.
All right, but we've got,
It's gotta have a sponsor.
we've got, obviously some disagreement here on what should be published. And the only way that I am aware of to resolve that is to have a vote on how to resolve it. I mean, otherwise, it's just, everybody can just make their own decisions willy-nilly how they see fit, you know, based on some meeting they have here and meeting have there, and there's nothing, you know, discussed in the public, you know, the citizens of District 4 don't have a say in it. And I don't think that's the way it ought to be. I think if there's a disagreement about what's published and what's not published, then the only way to truly resolve that is to have a vote on it.
Look,
And the votes, you know, it sounds like y'all have got votes in one way or the other, but I think there should probably be an open forum and a discussion about it, of what's gonna be published. I mean, if there's disagreement, usually we're in agreement on these things and it's just not a big deal, but here we are having some, you know, discussion about it. I don't know how it should resolve.
Madam Clerk, it came out of recommendation of the committee, correct?
Yes.
So since it came out of recommendation of the committee, I mean, therefore,
That's what is published. You can't vote on what we put out into the media because that would, in a sense, be voting on the item itself. Where your vote comes in will be when it is on the agenda for a vote, and if you vote against it, if it is amended, whatever happens, will happen then.
Well, who's paying for it?
The city pays for it.
The city, right? Taxpayer money. Do we approve all the other expenditures of the city?
Mr. President.
Everything is, taxpayer money, whatever we do is taxpayer money, we have no other money other than taxpayer money.
Absolutely, I agree. So every expenditure is approved by this city council and a vote ought to be taken on it. And maybe y'all have me 6-1 here, who knows, but it's worth saying. And it needs to happen. In my opinion, I'd appreciate if we got a legal opinion from our attorney to illustrate exactly, how to resolve this matter.
Mr. Jones and Mr. Davis.
Look, this is no different than any other amendment. Just like your amendment that you put on the table for redistricting, that you didn't even talk to me about.
Or me.
So don't sit here today and talk about, we need to vote on an amendment. This is my amendment and William's amendment. If you don't like it, don't vote on it when it comes up. But don't sit here and talk about taxpayer money, because what you did was taxpayer money. Now, we had hours of discussion on this thing. You were not here. To come in today, when this thing's getting published tomorrow, and start raising issues that have already been discussed, that you and I have already had discussions about, and I told you to put your amendment on the table. You have every right to sponsor your amendment, and put it forward to a public hearing, and we'll vote on that amendment. Just like everything else. That is how we do business, and how we have done business for the year that I've sat here. And that's no different. We've never, ever taken an amendment, a vote on an amendment before we ever publish the amendment to take another vote on it. That's not the right process. The right process is we publish it, we have a public hearing on it, then we vote on it.
Mr. Davis.
Madam Clerk, from what you said, I understand the practice in the past has not been to take a vote on what's published. I suggest we handle this the way we've always handled it in the past. Let it be published, and then when it comes up for a vote, everybody has their say.
I want to raise one other point, and we'll adjourn it if that's what the chair wants. This is in an effort to avoid the scenario that Councilman Jones has raised of this going through the publication process, being brought forward to a public hearing, and then amendment being offered, and then having to start over with republication. That's what this is aimed at. It's about expediency. It's about moving the process forward rather than getting stuck, down the road a ways and having to start back over, so that y'all can preserve this core project that you want to have happen over there. That's simply all it is for expediency purposes. Let's address the issue now rather than later.
Again, we've had that discussion. If I and William and others didn't have a feel that this was going to have the votes to move forward, we would be putting it forward. For you to come in now and put your plan on the table that's different than that, do what you want to do, Ben. But at the end of the day, this amendment is going forward. We will vote on it, and we'll vote on your amendment if you want to put it forward.
Anything from the administration?
Mr. President,
Mr. Penn,
the entitlement committee meeting will be at 1 p.m. Thank you.
anything from the council?
One last announcement, 15th of November, we will have a public services committee to discuss the 310 board. That will be a joint committee meeting with the county commission. We will be inviting their 310 board appointees as well as ours, and that will be downstairs in the auditorium at 1 p.m.
Also, Mr. Jones, if you can make sure that the state legislators are also invited, and it's possible we can get someone from Montgomery to come down.
That request is being sent.
All right, Mr. Joe
I
Davis.
just wanted, I was gonna ask, Councilman Penn to refresh our recollection on the entitlement committee meeting.
The central on business issue.
Ms. Gregory?
I just want to remind everyone that the fair begins October 28th, runs through November, I can't remember the exact date, but it begins October 28th, which is going to create a lot of traffic on Ziegler and Cody Road. I have asked Chief Prime to work with us on a traffic plan, because the last thing we need is a lot of fair traffic coming down Ziegler Boulevard heading west that has to detour along those service roads. So as soon as they get that to me, I will certainly put it out, and Cassandra can help, we can put it on our Facebook pages, to remind people to go a different direction in order to get to the fair, because it is going to be heads up on the fair traffic this year.
Anything else? Now we'll see each other Tuesday.
Be careful how they publish this thing. They publish it as